biochemists in the world. When they discovered this book, a significant collaboration was born.
This is the Atlas of Cancer Mortality in China.
Published in 1981, the Cancer Atlas was the result of Zhou and Lai's nationwide study. It showed a highly unusual geographical distribution of different types of cancer in China, which tended to be clustered in certain hotspots. The same was true with cancer after cancer, and the counties with the highest levels were often far greater than the counties with the lowest levels.
So, for example, esophageal cancer, according to this cancer map, the mortality has 400-fold difference among different counties in China.
That's huge.
Yeah, and I understood in the United States, only several-fold difference.
Maybe twofold is another. That's all we see.
Yeah. So that caught our attention in terms of why. Because they are all Chinese. Genetically, they are all the same. And why they have so much difference in single cancer mortality. So we believe it has to be related to the environment, the big environment. And from our professional perspective, of course, it's diet and the nutrition.
Dr. Chen, he said, why don't we just go there and do a study?
For Dr. Campbell, it was the opportunity he'd been looking for. Among other things, he could examine how his observations about liver cancer in Filipino children and the findings from his lab studies applied to a large human population.
The project would consider 367 diet and health-related variables, making it one of the most ambitious nutritional studies ever conceived. Dr. Campbell and his associates carefully chose 65 counties scattered across China. These counties were mainly located in rural or semi-rural areas.
We use the rural counties because they are stable in their residence, and they have been in this lifestyle for at least 20 to 30 years.
More than 350 workers were trained. They carefully surveyed the diet and lifestyle of 6,500 people in the chosen counties.
Urine and blood samples were also taken.
In 1983, Doctors Campbell, Chen, and their collaborators began to analyze the vast amount of information that had been collected.
The job would take years. After 8 weeks eating plant-based foods, Joya Coyne was still off all his medications.
When I started this, I had all these side effects from medication and from my being so unhealthy, but now I'm getting in better shape every day. I feel more healthy. I very seldom get tired during the day. I just feel so good all the time. This is a scale that I weigh myself on, and it started about 8 weeks ago, way up here around 218, 220, and now it's bouncing between 180 and 185. None of my belts fit. This one here, I actually had to have 2 new holes punched in because I like the belt so much. Nothing fits. I got to go shopping. It's just everything, all my clothes. A good problem to have.
It's been fun for him because I think he's learned, in addition to the fact that he's seeing such great results, that he loves it.
I don't think he'll go back to this old ways. He feels too good, and he likes, even if he started to go off a little bit, he feels too good, his energy's too good, he looks younger. And
the fact that he would have to go back on all the meds, if he did, I think that that's a huge motivation for him to maintain the lifestyle.
In the mid-1980s, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn was struggling to organize a study on coronary artery disease. His plan was to put a group of patients on a diet of low-fat plant-based foods, along with small quantities of low-fat dairy products and minimal amounts of cholesterol-reducing drugs.
And slowly, over the next 18 months, I got the 24 patients that I had asked for. But the ones they sent me were a little bit sicker than I had thought. These were patients who had failed their first or second bypass operation. They had failed their first or second angioplasty. And there were 5 who were told by their expert cardiologist they would not live out the year.
One of the most gravely ill patients was a 59-year-old speech and communications teacher, Evelyn Oswick.
ate all the chocolate candy I could eat, ate every donut I could put my hands on. Oh, I just love things like that, a lot of gravy. And then I have had 2 heart attacks before I met Dr. Esselstyn. When I had the second heart attack, the doctor said that I should prepare for death, really, is what he said. And I looked at him and I said, do you really mean that what you want me to do is buy a rocking chair and just sit there and rock away and wait? And he just looked at me and he said, yes, that's just exactly what I'm saying.
Anthony Yen was born and raised in China.
And we were eating typical Chinese cultural diet. Very small piece of meat, but they slice it, and so it was for flavor rather than American style. When you eat a large, great, big piece of meat, which you could easily feed the whole family in China. And we eat a lot of vegetable in China, and we have soup. But once I came to the United States, you find beginning to experience fast food, hamburgers and cheeseburgers, pizza, and I noticed my weight began to gain.
When Mr. Yin was 56 years old, he suddenly experienced severe chest pains.
At that time, I had an open heart surgery. I had 5 bypass, 5. But it was very interesting. About a week later, I felt my chest tighten up again. So myself and my wife went to see Dr. Esselstyn.
I saw every one of these patients myself every 2 weeks for the first 5 years. And at that visit, we would get a full cholesterol lipid profile. We would get blood pressure, weight, and I would go over every morsel they ate.
By using simple foods as the main treatment for his patients, Dr. Esselstyn was bucking a high-tech, high-cost system that was deeply entrenched in both big medicine and big government.
Behind my back, I got to be known as Dr. Sprouts. But I guess I've always liked a challenge.
We preheat the oven, got the water going, we just add some seasonings, and then we add the onions and the spinach.
I've never been a morning person my whole life, and but previous to this experience, it had probably been worse than ever, and that entailed needing to get up in the morning and caffeinate myself with Cokes and Red Bulls and stuff like that before I could even think or start to work.
We didn't make the rice noodles, but you would just boil them real quick and then throw this on top of them.
Right. He's actually eating more often, but he's eating the right foods, and he lost weight. So he certainly feels much better that way, and you can tell it in his face, in his neck, in his belly. He's lost a lot of weight there. He also has better energy. He's waking up earlier now. That's great, because we have then some morning time together.
I don't have to carry anything.
You're the doctor.
1990. Following nearly a decade of intense effort, Dr. Campbell and his colleagues finally published their China study. It identified no less than 94,000 correlations between diet and disease.
Those are big numbers for any study. And in the end of the day, when we did all these correlations in this book here, and we looked at the number of them that were statistically significant, it was between about 8,000 to 9,000. When you have that large number of correlations and you start analyzing each one, if it works out as statistically significant, this means that if 19 out of 20 are pointing in the same direction, it's highly significant and likely to be true.
Hundreds of detailed tables and charts were included in the study. Each one presented the raw data that was collected. Then, this information was cross-referenced in multiple ways to demonstrate its reliability and to show how it linked with the 367 variables the study examined.
I think the major message we got out of all these correlation analysis is only one message. The plant food-based diet, mainly cereal grains, vegetables, and fruits, and very little animal food, is always associated with lower mortality of certain cancers, stroke,